Good evening, everyone. I am Barry Halverson, co-chair of the Lake Lawrence Lake Management District and Washington State Lake Management District Coordinator. This presentation is targeted to provide information on products that are intended to sequester or mitigate the harmful algal blooms or cyanobacteria problems many of us are experiencing in our lakes. Here are a few rules that we'll be following. Our presentation tonight will be by Greg Wagner, Technical Representative and Sales Manager for OASE. Greg will be providing a presentation on SeDox Max and Schlicks Plus with primary emphasis on SeDox Max. Greg, you should be able to share your screen now. Thank you for coming and addressing our many interested lake managers.
First question I always get whenever I do one of these, it's OASE. That's how you say that. And OASE is German for oasis. It seems to be almost the very first question I get. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate everyone tuning in. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you a little bit about the issues you all are having at Lake Lawrence. Again, my name is Greg Wagner, the National Sales Manager for the Lake Therapy line here in the U.S. I am coming to you from Napoleon, Indiana. Population 250, but that's way too populated for me, so I live 4 miles outside of that little bitty town. Very cold here right now, freezing, so I think you guys are 40s, 50s or something like that, so I'm a little jealous because you're playing golf out where you are right now. And Barry's right, I'm going to spend my time talking about SeDox Max because I think that's the product that is going to best address the issues, as I understand it, with Lake Lawrence. And like I said, that just popped up there: efficient, holistic, and sustainable. That's the keys to this entire product line, the Lake Therapy product line. Efficient in that we want to solve multiple problems with less products. Holistic in that we are improving the overall health of your body of water and addressing root cause problems and not just going after symptoms. Sustainable because in that we want long-term environmental balance, and we want positive effects for both the people and the environment of the lake. So a little bit, as I understand Lake Lawrence, this is the context that was sent in the spreadsheet that was sent out for us to fill out. It's a shallow eutrophic lake out there, 320 acres, max depth of 25 with an average depth of 12. Your big issue that y'all have are recurring cyanobacteria blooms. Blooms. You have low dissolved oxygen in your deeper sections in the hypolimnion. Your primary source of phosphorus is sediment release, so you have a lot of internal loading in your lake. Hydraulic residence time, 2 to 4 years, tells me that the water stays there for a while. Yeah, that not a lot in, not a lot out kind of situation. And your long-term goal for the lake is an incremental sustainable phosphorus reduction. Over there on the right side, just broke down again, this is information that was provided. You've got your east big basin, you've got your west small basin, and then the whole lake. And we'll talk a little bit more about those numbers here in a minute. Calculations that we've done, again, predicated on that information given. Water column average of 56 micrograms per liter, ppb. That yields, in a body of water this size, that yields 584 pounds of P in the water column. That varies slightly. I think at some point in time I had been provided a long list of historical data, and the historical data had a little bit higher, 70 ppb, but that changes from year to year and over time. So, okay, 56 is the number we use. The sediment data, the sin is in the sediment, clearly. An average of 1,142 milligrams of P per kilogram of sediment. Now, assuming 10% solids and 46% availability, that's 16,468 pounds of available P in your sediment layer. So you put those two things together, you're right at about 17,000 pounds of P in the lake that could be mitigated. So a lot. And again, predicated on these conditions and the things that y'all are trying to achieve with Lake Lawrence, We're going to talk about a lot about SeDox Max because I think it's the most efficient, effective way to tackle the problem. So what is SeDox Max? I don't know how much everybody's been able to like to go to websites and check things out, so I'll do a real quick overview of what the product is. It's a product that binds phosphorus both in the water column and at the sediment layer, and it does so by reacting with the phosphorus in the water to form the minerals apatite and rhabdophane. It gives you long-term phosphorus binding. It does some additional things as well. Adds some biologically available carbon species and helps optimize the nutrient ratio. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And promotes the microbial activity because as the active ingredient calcium peroxide disassociates in the water, provides molecular oxygen to your water. So it helps with oxygen issues. What you'll see here on the right, SeDox was our original product, right? And that was in use in Europe for quite some time. And December of 2023, I was hired onto OASE, and my job was to launch this product line in the U.S. In late 24, early 25, they had developed a second product called SeDox Max in Germany through continuous research and development, that kind of thing. And what they saw was an opportunity to add a lanthanum component to the original SeDox product and get a synergistic binding effect and really raise that binding capacity from 1 pound of P per every 50-pound bag to 1.5 pounds of P for every 50-pound bag. That's pretty big improvement, especially as on a lake like yours that is that big, that much water, that much P. That extra pound of P really goes a long way into reducing the amount of product that has to be handled in order to bind all that. So how does it control phosphorus in the treated water bodies? Again, there's several different mechanisms that take place. The most important two most important mechanisms are, one, you get dissociation of calcium peroxide, and you get, through solid state chemistry, you get a reaction of calcium and phosphorus, and you form hydroxyapatite. The second one, and this was a very well-known mechanism, it's been in the water industry for 20 years now. The lanthanum reacts with phosphorus and it forms rhabdophane. So those are the two primary mechanisms by which it removes phosphorus from the water, and those are both minerals, right? So they are no longer biologically active. They are taken completely out of the phosphorus cycle then. There are some other things that happen to help with phosphorus control. You get a change, if you've got iron, you can get a change in the oxidative state, and so iron can bond some phosphorus in that scenario. And then when the when the apatite settles into the sediment, and that's what will happen, it will go into the sediment and sink down through the sediment. There's a couple things that can happen there. One, as apatite goes through that sediment and finds anoxic areas, you can get apatite to bind with iron and form vivianite, which is another form of non-bioavailable, permanently bound mineral phosphorus. The second thing that can happen, you get, this one's a little more complicated, but you can get some decoupling of ferric sulfide in the sediment layer, and again, through that, you can form some direct vivianite formation. Those are real secondary. They happen in the sediment layer, and it takes time for it to work down through there. It's not something that you directly see, like the formation of the hydroxyapatite or the rhabdophane. Those are pretty quick reactions, and you see phosphorus being pulled out. That's something that happens over time through the sediment. But it is two secondary mechanisms by which the phosphorus continues to be bound and taken out of the phosphorus cycle. how do we improve oxygen concentrations in the water, and what does that do? Well, again, with an active component of calcium peroxide, when it disassociates in the water, it releases molecular oxygen, which is, beneficial, one, for the water column, but then at the sediment layer, it can help oxygenate that upper sediment layer, and that can help you with more efficient degradation of organic matter, and it can also increase the phosphorus binding capacity of things in the sediment that I just talked about, whether it's the ferric sulfide or the formation of vivianite with the apatite. So this also can help in eliminating foul odors. I don't know if you have odor issues at all at your lake, but it can help with that. And again, because it's putting oxygen in the water, it can also help you avert fish kills. Final thing, how does it balance nutrients in a treated body water? Well, of course, the big part that everyone talks about in nutrient balance is it removes phosphorus, right? And we bind up and remove phosphorus out of the cycle. But it's really good at this C&P ratio. So your carbon to nitrogen phosphorus ratio, and that's called the Redfield ratio, and it's kind of like the ideal situation for a body of water. If you had 106 atoms of carbon to 16 atoms of nitrogen to 1 atom of phosphorus, you have a very healthy body of water that can really shrug off a lot of upset conditions. So how do we help with that? Well, one, we've got, again, pulling phosphorus out, so taking that closer to 1. We add alkalinity. There's a fair amount of alkalinity in the product, so we can add alkalinity. That can boost that C number up. And then through nitrification, because we're adding oxygen in the water, we can help control that N in the middle. And what we really do there is, one of the things that's really important is if you have ammonias and nitrites, you can move that through the nitrogen cycle over to nitrate, which is the most bioavailable form of nitrogen, which is beneficial to any aquatic vegetation, beneficial aquatic vegetation. So again, these are kind of the benefits of the SeDox Max, and some are direct, some are indirect, and talked a lot about that, whether it's delivering oxygen, reducing the phosphorus. One of the indirect benefits you'll see is probably improved water clarity. That's one, through nitrification again in the water column, but then also you're just dropping a lot of solids into the water, and physically that will help remove some suspended particles, so you will see some improved water clarity. Again, at your sediment layer, it can help to reduce foul odors, improves the C&P ratio, and through reducing organic nitrogen and helping to improve the degradation of organic matter. So it's a holistic approach. And again, I know that phosphorus mitigation is what's really key here, and it's a very important part, but I don't want to overlook the fact that the product helps make the entire body of water much healthier. So I want to go through a little bit of the phosphorus control product evaluation. This is just the things that were covered in the spreadsheet that was sent. Explain my answers a little bit and give everybody a chance to take some notes and maybe collect some questions. And I will say this, maybe right now is a good time if we're supposed to save all our questions to the end, correct? So maybe right now pause for just 30 seconds and give everybody a chance to maybe write down, if you have any questions about the product itself, write those down so we can get to them here at the end. And I'm also going to take a drink so I don't cough.
You can also put those questions in the chat, and I'll summarize those at the end for Greg.
There we go. Okay, a little tickle in the throat. All right, so move on to the evaluation portion. So section A was all about water quality and lake response. So, the 5 questions put there: dissolved oxygen impact. Again, this should be a net positive to DO. The product provides oxygen both in the water column at the sediment layer, so that should help. I know that in looking through some of the data, there are some issues with low DOs in some of the deeper areas, so it should help with that. pH compatibility, again, should not be any issue at all, as it adds alkalinity, and if anything should help give it, the body of water a little bit more buffering capacity. Phosphorus removal in the water column, again, two mechanisms by which we remove phosphorus in the water column: the formation of apatite, formation of rhabdophane, and again, down at the sediment layer, that bioavailable, I believe it was called readily available phosphorus at the sediment layer. Whatever doesn't react in the water column, will go down there and react with that phosphorus down there. So you get water column removal and binding at the sediment interface there. Longevity of effect, again, the mechanisms by which it work are all long-term solutions. We form hydroxyapatite, we form rhabdophane, and then some of the secondary things that happen in the sediment layer, it's all permanent binding of that phosphorus. Cyanobacteria considerations. I am going to be very careful here. I'm going to say that SeDox Max, as I have discussed, is a incredibly highly effective and efficient phosphorus binding program. I'm also going to say that there have been numerous scientific papers written that talk about the effectiveness of binding phosphorus in lakes that are plagued with cyanobacteria blooms. What I will not say is that my product directly affects a cyanobacteria bloom, because that would put me at risk of considering my product a pesticide. So what I will say about all of this is, again, I will very highly or very efficiently and effectively bind the phosphorus in your body of water, and I will leave it up to the folks at Lake Lawrence to research how that binding of phosphorus will affect your proclivity for cyanobacteria blooms. I will say that there is nothing about SeDox Max chemistry that would indicate there's any risk for short-term bloom stimulation. So it isn't a situation where immediately afterwards some reaction would happen where it would cause a short-term bump or boost in blooms. Implementation, section C, then we get into implementation and flexibility. So the way I see it, there are kind of three options here when it comes to implementation. First is a complete lake reset. Get all the product that you need for all the phosphorus that you have, and do one great big application and bind all the phosphorus up. That is it's very significant mitigation at one time, but it is also very significant one-time cost. Option 2 would be annual treatments, where you chip away every year. You chip away at the phosphorus, right? You have a certain amount of budget every year. You buy the amount of product that you can afford that's in your budget, and working with your applicator, what you can afford to do, and every year you chip away at a certain amount of it. It allows is to spread the costs over many years. It also allows for testing and evaluation or reevaluation of what you want to do each year going forward. You may find that you have more external loading than you think, and so you have to change your program a little bit. You may find that you have less, and that you've gotten more efficient binding of phosphorus, and therefore maybe your second year you don't need as much as you thought or as you would plan for. So it does allow for that reevaluation year over year to kind of came up with a new game plan each year. And it also, by doing it over years, you get the additional benefits of the oxidation, the alkalinity addition, that kind of thing. You get a few different applications of that as opposed to all at one time. Finally, the option 3 would be a maintenance treatment. This would be like monthly. This is not a option for a lake of your size. It's more for something that's, say, maybe a half acre to 5 acres to 10 acres, something like that, where maybe somebody wants a lake management company has like a monthly contract to treat and take care of a body of water, so they add a little bit of bag every visit, every monthly visit. That's not something that would be really applicable for a body of water like Lake Lawrence. So I really honestly believe that option 2, annual treatments of some kind, are probably the best bet moving forward. And it just then becomes a matter of, okay, how much do we want to do each year? Sensitivity to lake conditions in section C. So SeDox Max works on what they call solid state chemistry. And what that means is the things that happen tend to happen on the particle and in the nanosphere right around the particle. So it leaves the product less susceptible to lake conditions affecting it, because I don't have to make the entire lake, the conditions of the entire lake ideal for these things to happen. The conditions that are ideal for these things to happen are happening at a molecular nanoscale right around the particle of the product. So that leaves it far less susceptible to varying lake conditions changing how this works, because it doesn't have to change the entire condition of the lake in order for it to work. Again, it provides alkalinity and oxygen in that environment and works on multiple mechanisms, but it all happens right there at the surface of the particle, which is very advantageous. Section D, cost and logistics. Go through this very quickly. I think that's supposed to be recommended ratio per pound of P controlled, not ration, but the recommended ratio per pound of P controlled. SeDox Max, it's 33 pounds of product to mitigate a pound of phosphorus. Technically speaking, I believe it's actually 33.2 something, but we'll just call it 33 pounds of product to mitigate a pound of phosphorus. Approximate product costs, we sell through distribution. Rob Minus at 2M's been very instrumental in all this. So the final price per pound of product is really determined how it's purchased, whether directly or through an applicator. And we'd anticipate product costs to be between 1.8 and 2.2 million for complete P removal, to mitigate 17,000 pounds of P removed. There's no shipping and handling costs. We would gladly ship you the product, and if there are any additional handling costs, it would be at the discretion of your applicator, which I don't believe has been determined which applicator is going to do this yet. When it comes to application costs, and this goes back up to that approximate product cost, I had to assume some application costs into the product cost, because I just don't know yet. I don't know who's going to do the application, how they're going to do the application. I don't know, this is a big project, right? And for the product to work in its most efficient and effective way, it needs to be slurried. So I need an applicator that has, a sizable boat with a sizable slurry system. So I don't, when we talk about application costs, it's very difficult for me to put a number on that, because I don't know, are they going to have 5 boats and 10 people working for a week or 3 days? I don't know what the man hours are. So the application costs are more aligned with the applicator themselves and how they're set up. And once an applicator is, chosen and we can talk with them, then we can work through them and certainly tidy up those numbers. Section E, monitoring and regulatory. I believe that the question, as was stated, is, does it require any additional analytical testing? Well, it certainly does not require it. Now, I will say that most customers choose to do some testing, just as, verification of the efficacy of the product and what kind of removal they get, things like that. But in terms of requiring, it requires no additional analytical testing. The other part of this, I will say, is that we're going to work with the state of Washington for the experimental phosphorus sequestration product use plan. Have a meeting with Sean from the state next week to talk about that, and this is all in accordance with the APAM. That will require some testing, as I understand it. So we'll be on the hook for doing some testing, and all the fees associated with that work, we'll gladly absorb those. So as a result, there'll be this testing done. We will gladly share that with Lake Lawrence, and let you guys see that, so that you know what's going on with the water chemistry of your body of water. Section F was ecology and human safety. It's a mineral-based chemistry, and toxicology effects are extremely, extremely low. And we, of course, we'll provide SDS, has all the toxicological information on it, but they are very low because it's just mineral-based chemistry. It's not hazardous to humans in the water. The original product that I talked about initially, SeDox, is actually NSF 60 certified. We've gotten that NSF for drinking water. And SeDox Max is not, simply because it has a lanthanum component in it. As it stands right now, you cannot get NSF 60 certification if you have a lanthanum component in there. But the backbone, the original product, and the basis for all this is actually NSF 60 certified. So it's a very safe product, and no ecological issues whatsoever. I would say that care should be taken during application, and wear the appropriate PPE per the SDS, but that's going to be true of any product, right? So that kind of goes through that. Just a real quick slide, how we're different than some other products that are used for phosphorus mitigation. This all comes down to the same, to what I talked about, and it's designed to make the entire body of water healthier. Yes, we will mitigate phosphorus, but we're more than that. We want to make the entire body of water healthier, and whether that's improving the nitrogen cycle or buffering, helping buffer pH through the addition of some alkalinity and increasing DO. And this is it. The final slide. SeDox Max. Key components of it. 50 pounds of this removes 1.5 pounds of phosphorus. It does, like I said in the last slide, does your phosphorus binding, increases oxygen concentrations, and helps balance your overall water chemistry. So that is it for my presentation. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening, and I will now make myself available for questions.
Okay, if you got any questions, please raise your hand. Okay. I'll go to the chat room first. Greg?
Do I, if someone has their hand raised, do I click on it or do you click on it, Barry?
I do. I'll ask them.
Okay.
So, first one is, does organic matter decomposition release nitrogen or phosphorus?
Organic they can. They certainly can. But that's, if we were doing Schlicks Plus, where you get more significant organic sediment degradation, I would talk a little bit more about that. Again, this product will go down to the sediment layer, and so if you dose it appropriately, you have available binding capacity. So if you get any phosphorus release from organic sediment digestion, and I don't know exactly what your organic sediment, you're going to have some binding capacity down there to grab it.
Okay. The other question is, the primary ingredient in SeDox Max is calcium peroxide with lanthanum?
That's the question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And there's no iron in it?
No.
Okay. And how much does it change the pH of the lake, if any?
A tenth of a point. Yeah, I mean, some of it depends a little bit on your buffering capacity of your lake. So, could it change it 0.2 of a point or 0.3 of a point? Possibly. But I'd kind of need to know a little bit more about what your current pH and alkalinity values are, but it's not going to make a drastic change to pH.
We operate between 6 and 10.
To be honest with you, that's pretty wide. That's a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
I would not. I mean, okay, if you're at 6.8, maybe you go to 7.0.
Okay. And
to follow up on that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you were discussing annual treatments, you said that the positive part of that was yearly oxygenation of the lake, and I thought you said alkalinity.
Yeah, alkalinity and pH are very closely related. You're going to add some total alkalinity in the form of carbonate and bicarbonate, and that can boost pH a little. So yeah, 40 to 60. That's what I figured too, Ryan, considering it's a western lake.
Yeah.
So you might see a slight pH change, but I mean, it's not like it's going to take your pH from 7 to 10 or anything like that. It'll probably make a couple tenth pH change and probably up. Well, it would be up, definitely be up.
Is that primarily because of the calcium peroxide?
No, it's because of the alkalinity.
Okay.
The alkalinity addition.
Okay. Any Washington Lakes case studies? I don't believe there are any, Greg. That's just questions to ask.
No, there's not. We're working on a lot of case study stuff right now, but again, case studies take time, and product's been in my hands for less than a year. We are currently working with Wageningen University over in Europe, talking about doing some work with some universities here in the U.S. to get some more academic stuff done.
Okay. Brian, go ahead.
Sorry. Two questions. Sorry, I wasn't sure my mic was on. Let's see, when do you normally apply your product? Time of year?
Okay. I would recommend, ideally, either fall or early spring. Fall is a great time because a couple things happen in the fall. A lot of your biology slows down, goes to sleep, stops binding up phosphorus. A lot of times you'll get a total phosphorus of this much and a soluble reactive phosphorus, an orthophosphate, lower than that. You want that split to be as low as possible. You want as much phosphorus in the ortho form, the soluble reactive form, as possible. And that's true, basically for anything that reacts with it, you need it in the ortho form. So fall is an excellent time to do it. And again, it's the biology and any biological activity is much less in the fall going into the winter. The other thing that's nice about it that time of year is the phosphorus is trying to make its way back down to the sediment, so it gets very concentrated at the sediment layer that time of year, and the product works exceptionally well in a situation where it's highly concentrated like that. So fall's good. Early spring, that would be the next time I would probably recommend it, because again, the biology hasn't started to take off, and there's not been a lot of phosphorus uptake at that point in time. So that's probably my second recommendation, would be early spring.
Okay. Looking at your chemistry here, I'm used to seeing chemical equations here, so I had to look up what vivinite is. But you have to have iron in order for that reaction to occur. Do you check the chemistry of the lake to be sure there's enough iron present to effectively create that mineral?
No, I don't, because it is it's a secondary a reaction. It typically happens in the sediment layer, and I would be willing to bet that most anywhere in the U.S., if you take a sediment fraction and take a look, there's some form of iron in it, but it's not the primary. It's not a primary reaction for like removing it from the water column, or certainly from the top of the sediment layer where you have a lot of readily available phosphorus. It's a secondary reaction that happens typically within the sediment, and it's just a next step of binding. So you've bound it up in vivianite, and then you just in those particular situations in the sediment layer, if there's iron, which again typically there is, and if it's anoxic, which a certain layer in the sediment it becomes anoxic, it just takes that next step.
Okay, sounds like there's a little uncertainty in the chemistry there, so depending on what's present. So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Go into the chat just to check and see if I captured everybody's question. Let's see. I think I caught everybody. But if you have any other questions for Greg and OASE, did I pronounce that correctly, Greg? Go ahead and send them to me. Again, this is Greg's information. This is his email address. Give you a second if you want to take a screenshot of that. So Greg, I'd just like to thank you for your presentation, and hopefully everybody got a lot out of it. A lot of people should be watching the video once it's posted to the YouTube channel, and we look forward to getting back with you and seeing how things work out.
All right, well, thank you very much, and again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet with you all and present the products.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you
very much.
Yeah. You have a great evening. Here is our contact information at Lake Lawrence. I'll give you a second. If you liked this presentation, please give us a thumbs up. Here are a few other videos you might find educational and interesting. And hit the subscribe button in the lower right corner to get automatic notifications when the new videos are posted to this YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great day.